What's up, y'all? I'm Will here with Schedulefly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, one of the highest rated hospitality podcasts in the world, brought to you by us at Schedulefly. We provide a very simple web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service. If you're on pencil and paper or Excel, or you're on some software with tons of bells and whistles and features you don't need or use, Schedulefly is the perfect place for you. Easy to use, point, click, and go, and we'll take great care of you. Schedulefly.com, free trial, check it out. Also, this podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, Pop Menu and The Giving Kitchen and Kickfin, and you're going to hear about them in just a minute. First of all, let's talk about today's guest. All right. Well, this was a lot of fun. This is Neal Bodenheimer, and I got introduced to Neal through Dave Nitzel and Dave Domzalski. They've been on the podcast before. They wrote this great book called Hospitality DNA, which is phenomenal, highly recommended, especially this time of year, great gift. And they had some of the best restaurant and bar owners around the world featured in their book, and Neal Bodenheimer is one of them. He owns several places in New Orleans. The first one he opened, it's been open 15 years, is called Cure, and Cure has been named by like Esquire and James Beard and all of these organizations as, one of the best cocktail bars or the best bar, various years in America. I mean, this place is phenomenal. And Neal's been in the business a long time. He's a great dude. He's been very successful, and he's just a very humble guy and just a lot of fun to talk to. So thank you, Dave and Dave. I know y'all listened to the podcast for the intro. Thank you, Neal, for being on here. This was so much fun. I was supposed to be there in person. Didn't work out, but that's all the better because I'll get to go there hopefully this spring and stay for longer and hang with Neal just to hang. So great episode. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. More great episodes coming soon. See ya. The busiest time of year is coming. Is your staff ready for the holiday rush? This year, give your team the gift of Pop Menu AI Answering, a simple solution for phones ringing off the hook. AI Answering handles calls 24/7, 365 days a year, so your staff can focus on in-person guests. Customize your greetings and responses, answer common questions, promote specials and events, and send follow-up links to ordering and reservations. AI Answering handles it all while escalating more complex conversations back to your team. Never miss another tasty revenue opportunity. Pop Menu, the marketing technology platform designed to make growing your restaurant easy. Discover more AI restaurant tools that turn your to-do list into an already done list by requesting a demo today. For a limited time, get $100 off your first month, plus lock in one unchanging monthly rate at popmenu.com. Go now to get $100 off your first month at popmenu.com. Be sure to tell them that Will from Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast and Schedulefly sent you. Y'all, this is a great business. I just told you what they like me to say. I will say that we have a lot of mutual customers at Schedulefly with Pop Menu. They all agree. Great product, great customer service, great results. Check them out, popmenu.com. This episode is also brought to you by The Giving Kitchen. Giving Kitchen provides emergency assistance for food service workers through financial support and a network of community resources. Since its inception in 2013, Giving Kitchen has served over 15,000 food service workers and awarded over $10.5 million to food service workers in crisis. If you or someone you know is a food service worker in crisis, please ask for help. thegivingkitchen.org, and again, that's thegivingkitchen.org. Y'all, this is a phenomenal organization. Jen, the founder, has been on this podcast. Jen Heidinger Kendrick, check out that episode to hear their full story. But if you know somebody or you need help, go to thegivingkitchen.org. Incredible organization and very responsive and has a wonderful mission. Check them out. All right, y'all. Wow. What a cool opportunity. I am getting the pleasure today of speaking with Neal Bodenheimer down in New Orleans. And Neal Well, let's just put it this way. I'm going to read about Cure, which is where I was supposed to be today, and luckily we get to do this over Zoom. But I'm looking on your website right now, Neal, and I'll get you to introduce yourself. But just Cure. Cure has been named one of America's best bars by Esquire, listed as one of the best cocktail bars in the U.S. by Food and Wine, and hailed among New Orleans' best cocktail bars. In 2018, Cure received the coveted award for outstanding bar program from the James Beard Foundation. And then I'm going to add on a couple of things before I let you start talking and introduce yourself. I just got done with your buddy Sean Josephs from Pinhook. He said that like you're the dude who put like the modern cocktail scene on the map there in New Orleans. And of course, Dave Nitzel and Dave Domzowski, which is where I got really, those guys are the reason I learned who you are. Is I read Hospitality DNA, the great book that they just wrote, and read your story, and you have an incredible story. And they, when I asked them, I was like, who are some of the people in that book you think might be interested in being on this podcast that you think are really awesome people and you really like? They're like, dude, Neal. Like, you got to talk to Neal. So I'm super thrilled, man, to have the opportunity, and I'm super thrilled to learn your story and talk to you today, Neal. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
Well, Will, thank you so much. And it's, I always love an opportunity to get to have conversations, and it's a real honor for me to be able to be on your show with you. And, it's always great company too. As I've looked at all the shows you've done, and in it, I feel really honored and fortunate to be in that number, as we say down in New Orleans.
Yeah, man. I know. Well, we started doing this when nobody even knew what podcasts were. I had to like beg people to come onto this thing, and we've done over 500 episodes now over the year. So, it's, man, I would do it like all day. If it was the one thing, if I could just do one thing, I would do these, because I get to meet so many amazing people around the country and hear stories, and how and why they got into hospitality, and all of the challenges that come along with it, and all the fun and love and inspiration that comes from it. And I always say, I was telling Sean this, just a little bit ago, I used to think I would do this podcast, and we've done a couple of books and stuff, and we've been doing the schedule flying thing 16 years. I was like, man, I'm going to get to know all the best restaurant people and learn from them. I'm going to start my own restaurant or bar one day. And like, then I started talking to people and hearing all the stories and like all that comes with what you do. And I was like, okay, I don't have the makeup for this, but I sure do like talking to people, because I always have a lot of respect for what you do. But it is a rewarding business, but a very challenging business, and I do think it takes a certain type.
Yeah, I think it certainly takes a certain type. Sometimes I think we're all, insane for doing it. But I just think that you just have to love serving people, and you have to love making experiences. I was signing books in a suburb of New Orleans over the weekend at Barnes and Noble, kind of like the holiday push, if you will. Um, and I had two people in the group that came up and said, "I oh my God, I met my partner at Cure," and then I mean, not 15 minutes later, someone said, "Oh my God, we had our first date at Cure." And it's really, those are the things that really excite me when I hear about it. When I hear that when we've been a meaningful place in people's lives, and they're attached to what we do, because Cure specifically about of our place. I mean, all of them mean a lot to me, but Cure is the example I'll use here. Like, it is Cure is special to me, and it's always incredible when I find out that it's special to other people. I'm always blown away by that, and that is the kind of thing that helps me want to get up every morning and do what we do and be excited about it.
What's so interesting is this seems to be the common thread, man. When I talk to people that are in this business, that have been in it a long time, that really love it and really get it and just create these amazing places, it's always that story, or some derivation of that story. It's the intangible stuff. Like, you don't know how many times you're going to create that. You can't measure it. It's not something on a spreadsheet. It's this, but it's something happens.
Mhm.
And if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to create more and more of those experiences. You'll hear some small fraction of them, but for every two that tell you that, there's been thousands of others that have happened that you don't even know about, but they're happening. And that's what is just so cool about this business. The numbers have to work. You got to make money. You have to be, you have to turn a profit. You have to be successful in the business, the business of the business, or you won't be in business.
Correct.
But that's sort of like that's not the thing you're there for, is to create these experiences. And the question is, how do we do that in a way that's where the business side works? But that's kind of the byproduct, is the business has to be successful. But the main objective is serving with a servant's heart, creating great experiences, and really like making this place, almost like an extension of your home, like treating people the way you would treat them if you and your wife had them coming over to your home and you were going to have this great night where everybody had a lot of fun. And you got to figure out, well, how do we do that with people that are not actually members of our family, blood relatives, but they become sort of these members of a unique kind of family, and they have to be bought in, and they have to be totally engaged with that guest, just like we would if they were in our home. And then we got to figure out, how do we do that 300 and whatever, how many days you're open a year, consistently. And then when we don't get it right, we have to learn together and grow as a team, and take that example of like where we kind of screwed up or something happened that was outside of our control, and figure out, how do we get better the next time, and just keep doing that over and over and over. Now, as somebody that would have somebody I would imagine if my wife and I had a dinner party, you plan for weeks, you hopefully it goes really well, and then you're like done with that for a long time. Like, that was fun, but it's the last one of those we're doing for 6 months. But y'all do it day in and day out with this awesome group. So, wow, like that's what I don't think a lot of people that, you hear about, like whatever number of restaurants fail, like whatever the real number is, you hear different statistics. I think so many people don't really, really process that that's what it is. It's not like I'm a good cook.
No.
I make like really good burgers. I'm going to no. Like, imagine having a dinner party in your home every night for 365 days, and you really want it to go really well because you care about these people a lot. Can you do that? Nah.
Well, what's funny is that I actually, and my wife could 100% back this up, is that I don't love to entertain at my house, and part of the reason is because I don't feel like we entertain as well at the house as we do in the bars and restaurants, because I'm so fortunate to be surrounded by so many amazing professionals that love to take care of people and love to use their trade and to create art, whether it's culinary or hospitality or beverage. And we get to work with so many enthusiastic and talented people, that really that's what the joy is of throwing that party, that dinner party every night, is that we get to do it with people, and we get to do it for people.
And you do it with people that just love their craft and love providing that experience to the guests.
Yeah, and that's the goal, right? And those are the people that we look for. And that's not to say that all of it is, that you're born with it. I think it can be created for people. I think some people are born with it, for sure. But I think it's everybody being aligned and having a goal of taking care of people and making great experiences. And that's not to say we get it right every time, because we don't, right? But the goal, it's a Sisyphean task. We push that boulder up the hill every day, and we try. And sometimes we're successful and sometimes we're not. But I'd like to believe, as a percentage, that we're going to have a pretty high percentage of success every day.
Key is probably, I'm assuming, is that when it doesn't go perfect, is to be self-aware, accountable, acknowledge it didn't, don't point fingers, own it, whatever it is, own it, and then learn and get better.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right. And I think that, so much of it is, I think people get caught in this idea of like breaking down what happened to bits, right? Well, this happened and we could have done this and I think you go through it once, right? but I think in the end, the goal is to have a very short memory. I think it's like, it's like
Yeah.
Ted Lasso, right? It's like you got to be a fish. But there's a reason why athletes, and there's a reason why people think like that, because you can't perform if you're playing tight and worried about making a
Mm-hmm.
mistake. You're gonna make mistakes. So you really just have to say, hey, look, moving on, like, let's not do this again, right? But like, let's focus on the future. I'm not interested in the past. You know, the only
Yeah.
thing I'm interested in the past is in a historic cocktail book. It's not in our operations,
Yep.
right? And maybe we reference the past if we went through something that was similar to what had happened before, as we're breaking something down. But we really want to be looking forward, always forward.
Move past. Let's be in the present. Let's focus on what we got going on now and what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great point to how great. I mean, that is the difference for great athletes, right? It's that mental game that they have, where you could take somebody with just as much physical skill, but an error causes you to break down and keep focusing
Mm-hmm.
on that and just not being able to get over it. Then you got to let that go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I gotta I want to find out, just because I always love hearing the backstory, man. Like, when and how and why did you get into this business?
Um, so let's go way back to a very wet spring of 1995 in New Orleans, Louisiana,
Okay. All
and there
right.
was a massive flood down here, and there was a college bar in my neighborhood. I was about to graduate from high school, and me and two of my very dear friends were out on the town looking for a fun job for the summer, where we could have a lot of fun before we went to college. And of course, we said, "Well, why don't we work in a bar?" You know, and just as a caveat here, you have to remember, and I'm sure I'm dating myself here, that when in that time it was 18 years to drink in New Orleans, so it was not unreasonable for an 18-year-old to say, "I want to work in a bar."
I want
Whereas,
to work in a bar.
yeah.
That was my next question. Okay, so I mean, so listen. I graduated high school in '92, so I'm with you on the age thing here. So okay, so you could, so in 18 in New Orleans in '95, you could drink, so you could work in a bar. So you
Correct.
guys are high school seniors. You're going to the bar.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are graduating. We want to go over to the bar. There was a massive flood, and of course, we went around to all the bars, like, knock knock. Hey, we'd love to have a job at your bar. We don't, we didn't even know what job to ask for, right? And there had been a flood, and so we walked up to one of the bars, and we were like, "Hey, we'd love to get a job in your bar." And you're like, "Oh, you want a job, right?" Well, we just flooded, and we have to pull these coolers out of here. So if you want a job, we'll give you a job right now. We'll hire you guys as bouncers and security in the future. But you got to help us right now. And we were like, sure, anything you want. And so that was how I ended up in many, many, many years long love affair with this business. Was that very moment where we were hired, and we became bouncers. And what was so fun about it is that it ended up being uh, an amazing job. We had tons of fun, and what I realized is that we were actually great bouncers because we knew all the 18-year-olds. So not only were we bouncers, but we were promoters. So it was a wonderful summer. It did not set me on a path to academic success in the fall, but it did set me on an eventual path into this business and some academic success after a lot of challenges. But that's for another session here.
Wait, so you went into so then that was before your senior year.
No,
That
so
was
that
a
was that
spring
was
before
before my freshman year of college.
your freshman year of
Yeah,
college. So did you go to school there in New
I
Orleans?
did not. I went to University of Arizona for my first
Oh,
year.
you went to Arizona.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. I did
Um,
not. I did not
okay.
stay at Arizona through every effort of my own.
I got, I got you. Um, you were okay. So Dave Nitzel said, ask Neal what he was doing on September 10th
September
of
10th of of of
I think
2001.
the day before the infamous in
I
2001.
was traveling. I want to say what day of the week was September 11th? I have to figure that out. But I was
Well,
traveling and I was in Prague. And I had
it was an early day in the week. I think it was I think it was a Tuesday.
so
I'm pretty sure it was a Tuesday.
and that would make sense. So it was in it. So I had just so I spent a year, almost a year of my life traveling around the world with my brother. And we had just we were getting towards the end of our trip. And we had come through New Zealand, Australia, um, all through Southeast Asia and India and Nepal and Turkey. And we had hit a point in our trip where we were in Eastern Europe and we were just getting settled in, and we had gone to see the kickoff of the NFL season at a sports bar in Prague, and and my
Mm.
father called me and and he emailed us back then. I mean, that was the only way that he'd get in touch with us, and said, "Hey, you need to call." And we called, and he was was kind of in the middle of the attack. And he said, "You need to
Mm.
get to a TV and start paying attention." And so me and my brother, we went and sat in the same sports bar where we had watched the glorious beginning to the NFL season, and watched September 11th unfold. And within a month, I was on my way back to the U.S. Um, and by the end of October, I was a New York resident and working in.
You went back to New York.
Well, not back to New York. I had never been. I went,
I mean,
yeah,
came back to the U.S. to go specifically to New
to go to
York.
New York, and I just really, it was a place that I had always wanted to live, and I don't know why, I just felt like it would be an amazing place to be, and I just felt like I wanted to be a part of what was going to come after 9/11 in New York, and it was a really meaningful time for me to get to be a part of of hospitality. And I mean, I didn't intend to be in hospitality when I moved to New York. Have always been in and out of it, but I didn't think that that was going to be the career that I would choose in New York. I went up there to work in advertising, and I worked in advertising for a very short period of time, and I tracked ads, and I was like, I'm not meant to be behind a desk. I am not. I am not meant to track ads. I can tell you that. And very shortly after that, I returned to the service industry again. My first job in New York was on the Upper East Side at Atlantic Grill, which was a seafood restaurant. And then I went and worked in advertising, and then I was like, "This sucks. I like that a lot. I want to go back and do that." And got really serious about it, working for a company that was called Be Our Guest Restaurants that Steve Hansen owned, and then sold to Starwood at some point. But I was also exceptionally fortunate. Now, I was interested in spirits, like very interested in spirits, both in consuming them and learning about them. And
Mm.
and then we were also on the Upper East Side. So Steve Hansen was one of the first restaurant group owners to bring in a corporate mixologist, and the Upper East Side was great place. People were still drinking classic cocktails. That's when Audrey Saunders was still at Bimmelman's bar, and a lot of the interesting things in cocktails were happening on the Upper East Side. I mean, at the same time, we're starting to happen on the Lower East Side and in East Village with Angel Share and Milk and Honey, and it was just a really interesting time for drinks in New Orleans, and I just kind of backed my way into it, and I feel forever grateful to my friend Evan Clem, who was an early mentor of mine, for introducing me to the world and for giving me a career, and and it started on the Upper East Side of New York after 9/11, and we used to make, we had this old writer who was a regular, and we all couldn't stand the guy. But he would come in, well before the old fashioned saw its revival, and he would order Scotch old fashions, and then he would toss us a quarter, which is why why we despised him. But he was also a jerk too. But that's another story. And of course, a quarter doesn't get you very far in New York as a bartender. Even in '01, it didn't get you very far.
No, no, it didn't. And actually, Sean Joseph mentioned that. You guys, did y'all work? He said y'all both worked for
Yeah,
BRG.
so we
Was it at the
did.
same
Yeah.
time, or?
I don't know if we've matched up our timelines yet, but I suspect it was because we were both working.
But y'all didn't know each other.
No, no, not at all. But we do have common
Okay.
friends, which is really
Okay.
interesting. We just never worked together. I don't think we ever met. And if we did, it certainly was in passing. And we've become
Okay.
great friends since he's moved down to New Orleans. And Sean and his wife Monty we're very lucky to have them in New Orleans.
Okay, so you were in New York, and what was the guy, Evan? You said
Eben,
your mentor.
Eben, Eben, as in
Okay,
Ebenezer,
EBEN.
um,
Gotcha.
and Eben Clem, uh,
Okay.
Klem.
Okay. And he's the one that was where you really started to learn a lot and dive into the world of spirits.
Well, so much, and we love to use
Not
this
just drinking.
phrase. Yeah, well, I was very good on that side of the bar too. Let me tell you. Um, and that was my New Orleans roots. Um, but Evan really turned a light on for me, and we use that phrase a lot. That there is this world of classic cocktails. There is this world um, of forward-thinking cocktails. But more importantly, I think it's basically the equivalent of what the slow food movement was for food, and and
Mm-hmm.
so it was this awakening to making drinks that had provenance, and then also it was doing things in a slower, higher quality way, and that really spoke to me a lot, and so he really helped turn the light on to me of what bartending could be, not just a way to make a living, for a short period, but as something that was a lifetime pursuit. And I don't think that Evan, I don't think either Evan or I knew in the moment that this would, that the things that we were working on would last this long, and I hope they keep lasting for forever. But um, I think we're both, and I'm particularly grateful that the cocktail has reemerged and has become mainstream. I mean, when we got started, we used to say that if you could get a good cocktail around the world, anywhere around the world, anywhere around the country. I mean, we were thinking the country at the time, that if you could go into one bar in any city and get a great drink, that the craft cocktail movement had been successful. And I think it's safe to say that it has been more successful than that.
All right, y'all. It is time for a little mid-episode break. We're going to talk about Kickfin. Thousands of restaurants, bars, and breweries use Kickfin to tip out their employees instantly. No cash required. With Kickfin, tips go directly to your employees' bank of choice the second their shift ends. It's a really simple solution to a really big problem, because if you're still paying out credit card tips in cash, it's costing you. Time-consuming bank runs and cash counting take managers away from work that matters. Cash is hard to track, which leads to accounting headaches, and it creates the perfect opportunity for theft, human error, and compliance issues. Bottom line, there's never been an instant, secure way to pay out tips until Kickfin. It's an easy-to-use software that sends real-time, cashless tip payouts straight to your employees' bank accounts 24/7, 365. Kickfin gives managers hours back in their day, makes reporting a breeze, and protects your business from risk. Most importantly, employees love it. Restaurants can have Kickfin up and running overnight. Employees can enroll in seconds. No hardware, no contracts, no setup fees. Visit kickfin.com for a personalized demo. See how restaurants across the country are digitizing tips with Kickfin. All right, that's what they asked me to say, so I say it, and it tells the story very well, but I like to add this in. We referred a customer that we know and love very well, Sup Dogs, to Kickfin. Sup Dogs has been a customer for a super long time. Trust them very much with their opinion on these types of tools. They started using Kickfin. I asked Brett, the owner, recently how it's going. He said Kickfin is perfect. It's going great. Exactly what we were hoping for. So there you go. Kickfin.com, y'all. Check them out. You came back to New Orleans around right after
I
Katrina. Is
did.
that right? Are you following are you drawn to the national national emergencies? What brought you back there?
Well, I think specifically, um, yeah. So yes, in a word, I think my track record shows that yes, I was drawn to these extraordinary moments in time. Um, but I think New Orleans was a little different. It was a little more personal. As a son of New Orleans, I really, um, after Katrina, I think a lot of people that were born in New Orleans felt that if we didn't come back, that maybe there would be no New Orleans, or it wouldn't
Yeah.
be as special a place. And so I really felt a pull back. And transparently, Cure was meant to be a New York bar, and after Katrina, I just didn't feel like my heart was in being in New York anymore, and I really wanted to go home. And part of that was Katrina and its impact on New Orleans, and I wanted to be a part of the rebuild. But the other part was just that, you know, God, I really felt New Orleans deserved the kind of a world class bar, and there were already world class bars in New Orleans, but I felt like it deserved the kind of bar that I envisioned, and that I felt it would make New Orleans a better place. And I think that 15 years later, I think Cure has had an impact on New Orleans, and I think it has made it a better place to drink.
Okay, so that's 2008, 15 years is when you opened. But you had this idea in your mind when you were in New York. Did you have a place? Did you open a place in New
Mm-mm,
York, or
no,
was Cure? Okay, so Cure was your first place that you opened.
Cure was my first place. I worked for other people, but no,
Okay.
Cure was the first one that I opened, and I did just about everything wrong that you could do, and was just lucky enough to not have it come back and bite me in the butt.
Well, okay, so you're there in New York. Katrina happens. I mean, look, dude, I give you and everybody that came back, or that stayed, a lot of credit, because I remember thinking, I don't think New Orleans is gonna, like, that's probably it for New Orleans. Like, I mean, realist, like, that was just kind of the, it was
I don't
hard
think
to
you were alone.
imagine.
And frankly, I
Yeah,
think that was probably, it took a lot to get New Orleans back up and running. I don't think that was an unreasonable question for anybody that wasn't here based on what you saw. I mean, this place was messed up.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
FUBAR,
yeah,
you
absolutely.
might say.
It was, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, that's that says so much for the city and the people of that city, and the vibe and the uniqueness of New Orleans, and people that have lived there and have grown up there and have family there. There is something really special about New Orleans. There's something special about New York. You saw what happened with what New Yorkers did with that city and how they came together. And there's this level of energy and love and passion for a place like New Orleans. It's hard to replicate in a lot of places, particularly probably newer cities that haven't been around as long and just don't have this amazing culture and history. And then there's people that, I mean, look, when you have a lot of great, I mean, it's a city that's known for great hospitality, great restaurants, great hotels, great bars, great clubs. That tends to come, these are not like this is the home of a bunch of chain restaurants and chain hotels. No, it's the home of a bunch of independent restaurants and hotels and bars and places to go, and small businesses and independent retail stores, and most of those are owned, and when they're independent like that, they're probably owned and run by people that have a lot of passion and love, and don't just run a business to make money, but run a business because they love what they do. And so, case in point, like that's probably a big reason that so many people stuck it out or came back, because of that immeasurable love. And
Well, and
um,
also, I mean, you think about it, it's one of the important things is that I think that's a great point about independent restaurant owners, independent business owners. Um, the reason why we support independent businesses down here so much more than chains is because we believe that we want to support people from our community. And
Yeah.
when you're an independent business, you want to give back to your community. And so New Orleans
Right.
has a very old world, old style feeling about community. And that's why we are the way that we are. And I think it's one of the things that people feel when they come down here. And look, like our service is, there we can go down a rabbit hole here about service, right? New Orleans service is not the most fine dining service in the world. It's just not. Like Michelin
Yeah.
would look at New Orleans and be like, "What are y'all doing?" Right?
Right.
But what it
Right.
and I think that service is, there is the service that grows out of servitude, right? And there is the service that grows out of hosting. And
Mm.
and so I think that so much of the fine dining service that you see grew out of servitude and
Yes.
highly polished service. And what New Orleans does is New Orleans does hosting. We host exceptionally well. And in order to host,
Yes.
you have to give of yourself. It is not transactional. It is, I mean,
Right.
it is transactional because it's business, right? But it's not meant to feel transactional. It's meant to feel that that you're having genuine experiences. And that to me is one of the things that, you can strip away a lot of different things, but that's the thing New Orleans has to hold to. Um, and I mean, so being a New York bartender, a New Orleans born New York bartender, and coming back down here, I had to learn quickly that what flew in New York didn't fly in New Orleans. In New York, you put your armor on, you went to work, and you had to be as technically proficient as possible, and make sure that you could run your bar. That's what people expected. And then down here, people are like, "Who are you? Where you from? Who's your mom and them?"
Right.
And so it was just very different. And if you weren't real and genuine with people and have those, give of yourself, it wasn't considered great service down
Yeah. Either style probably is not going to translate well to the other place. I mean, if you're down there in New Orleans with your armor on and you're very technical and you're not, authentic and just kind of open and I don't know, vulnerable or whatever the word is, that isn't going to work. And if you take that though up to New York, think like,
here.
dude,
Yeah. Hey,
what is this all
hey,
about?
can
Like,
I get my drink? I need you to be quiet.
yeah, but like, that's right. That's right. All right. Well, okay, cool. So then you come down there and you've got this idea for this place called Cure. Um, did you, um, did you raise money from business partners, or was this all you, or did you borrow money from a bank, or how did you get the capital, get it
A
started?
little bit of both. So
Yeah.
me and my business partner Matthew Conkey, who's a childhood friend of mine, and really gave me the push to be able to come back to New Orleans and that I needed. And he, I had a little cash, and he had some ability to borrow, and we went and bought this building, and and then
Oh, good.
and then and then I and then I borrowed against some life insurance policies, um, and
Okay.
was able to get some cash value out to go and open the bar.
Gotcha. So you bought the building.
We
That's
bought the
good for
building. I
you.
mean, it was tough, and but
Yeah.
it was, it really required, this was what was a high risk neighborhood when we started. It was
Okay.
very violent. There was a lot of crime,
Hmm.
but we saw that I mean, it wasn't entirely flooded out, right? And so there was no one living in the neighborhood. A lot of the businesses were flooded out, and were trying to figure out how to rebuild. So, I mean, it was a massive renovation project. So you really couldn't do that to someone else's building. You really had to own it. And so we went about and we found a building that we love. It's a 1905 firehouse, horse and buggy firehouse. And it was, we believed in the neighborhood. We believed that there was some zoning that was coming down the pipe, it was going to turn it into an arts and culture district. And we believe that would change the dynamic of the neighborhood. So we bought our building and we renovated it and did a historic renovation and opened the bar in the very beginning of '09. So we'll turn 15 in February of 2024. And we opened for Mardi Gras, and we were totally broke. We had spent all of our money plus. Thanks to some family, we were able to finish. And I mean, I'm telling you, like, I had an amazing home bar when we opened Cure, and I took the whole bar and I put it up because we had no money, and we just sold my home bar for drinks. That was how it started. We had, I mean, what do you want to have? You want to have 3 to 6 months of operating capital. We had negative 3 months or 6 months of operating capital. As I said, we did
Really?
it all wrong. Like, truly, we did so many things incorrectly, and we were just lucky.
Well, that's really interesting because wrong meaning if there was some prescriptive formula, yes, 6 months, but of at least 6 months
Hmm.
probably of working capital, at least, depending on the place and all that kind of stuff. But you also, you know, you did what you had to do. Like you hustled and tweaked and were just figuring it out one day at a time as you went and taking, what probably was, as you look back, going, "Holy crap, that was a hell of a risk that we took."
Un, I would say it was unreasonable risk. Now I am not. I'm
like,
like pretty.
like it's not a risk.
I'm like pretty risk averse, and I was like, gee. And I look back on, it, I'm like, what were we thinking?
What were
Jeez.
we thinking? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can look back, the difference is 15 years ago, when you're younger and you're like, you can take more risks,
Yeah.
and then once you've had some success, you're like, well, I don't need to take that risk versus, when this is your first place and it's your dream. I mean, you had this idea for years, it sounds like.
Mhm.
Like, what was the dream of Cure? Like, why did you want to create it when you're in New York and you were originally going to put it there? Like, was it to have a place where you could get a great cocktail, or was there
It
what was really the dream behind
it
it?
was. I mean, I had fallen in love with cocktail bartending, and
Yeah.
I really felt like there was it was funny because I was just started working on this place, putting it in paper, and I would go out every night in New York, and I would go to different bars, some small, some big, some cocktails, some not, and I was just studying bars constantly, and I just wanted to make a place that I was proud of, and
Yeah.
and I wanted to show people the kind of cocktails that were exciting to me, right? And that's not to say that when Cure opened up that you couldn't get great cocktails in the city of New Orleans, because you could, right? It was if you went to the right restaurant or the right bar on the right night and you found someone who really knew what they were doing, you get every bit as good a cocktail as you could get at Cure. But our goal was to make sure that 7 days a week that you would walk in and someone, no matter who it was, could make you an amazing cocktail.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. And when you got to New Orleans and started planning this, I mean, you guys bought that building right after. That was interesting timing, right after the
Yeah,
2007,
so we
2008.
bought it in 2008. And it
Yeah.
was, I mean, like, there was maybe the beginnings of some momentum in the city. There was a lot of Hollywood action down here. There was a lot of Hollywood South tax credits. That stuff has
Hmm.
since, a lot of it's moved to Georgia when we cut our tax
Yep.
credits, and Georgia has done a great job of making sure that it never leaves Georgia again. Um,
Yeah. Right. There's a ton there now.
and so there was some interesting stuff happening. Um, but I think more than anything is that I think that New Orleanians were really proud in that moment and really felt like, hey, we're gonna we're gonna make the city great again, and and
Yeah.
and and I genuinely wanted to be a part of that, and I think part of that, there New Orleans is it's a city that values preservation a lot, and I don't have to tell
Yeah.
anybody that's ever been in New Orleans that we value it. We can't talk about our present without talking about our history. Um, and that certainly is one of the reasons why we're one of the oldest cities in America. But there is a pendulum that swings here between preservation and progress,
Yeah.
um, and right now it's kind of swinging back towards preservation a little bit. Um, but but New Orleans has to. You can't just be a relic of the past either. For people to want to live here and for people to want to visit here, and so in the time post Katrina, there was a lot of swing towards progress, and it was something where I think people were really receptive. Number one, the kind of the duality of Cure, which was we loved making classic cocktails, but we loved making modern cocktails too. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a modern bar in a classic format in a classic city. So we really went back and forth like the city does of being preservationists, but with an eye on progress too. So it was both.
And okay, so you've been there for 15 years. Congratulations. And then
Thank
tell
you.
me what have you been, how many other places do you have now?
So we have three other places that we either own or manage, and then I'm a partner in a restaurant in Washington D.C. as well.
Okay, gotcha. And then what's the construction that you said is going on there right now? What are y'all doing?
It's not even that interesting. I'm sure that you guys can hear this thing nonstop. We are painting the building. We have a beautiful historic building, but like most historic buildings, the paint, I mean, some of it is the climate here. Is that some of the boards on the upper part of our building are historic boards, and they warp, and they have to be treated and sanded and brought back down to make the building look good. So we're doing that, but really a lot of it is that since we own the building, um, we have a new tenant upstairs, and we promised that we would redo the entryway of our commercial side of our building, and so what you hear is it's our is the transformation of our building to be worthy of our new tenant.
Well, let me clarify. I barely hear it. So what, like the listeners are not going to hear,
Mhm.
they'll hear barely anything. I know you probably hear it and you're like, God, this is, but I
Yeah,
was just curious because you
I'm
mentioned it.
like
So
I'm like,
is it,
man,
well,
some guest you have on here. It's got construction in the
no,
back.
no. That's the good thing about those. I mean, no, we're good. So, okay, so you've got Cure there and,
and then
then
and then
do your other places, tell me about the other places. What are the names of
So,
your other ones?
so we have another place called Cane and Table, and Cane and Table is a tropical leaning restaurant. Kind of all of the
Okay.
influences of New Orleans from south, right from the Gulf of Mexico
Uh-huh.
south, in
Yeah.
all these different things that kind of came up through our port and influenced our culture. And we just felt like it was something that has been a really important influence on New Orleans, and we wanted to to have that discussion. That as a restaurant, right? It's not a discussion. It's
Yeah.
we wanted to 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 uh, to tread that territory creatively. And Canaan Table just celebrated its 10th anniversary, and it's a wonderful restaurant with a great bar, and we're very proud of it. And it is I think it just got like named 25 places to to dine in New Orleans from the New York Times like 2 months ago. It's definitely something. We've got an amazing team over there, and between my partner Chef Alfredo Noguera, who does amazing things in the kitchen with our executive chef Mike Hampton, and then my other business partner, longtime business partner in Cure and in Canaan Table, Kirk Estopanol. It's just a wonderful experience down there.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
really cool
And you
historic
have a,
building, blue rated building.
do you
One
own
of the
it?
most. We do not in the French Quarter. It's much
Okay.
harder to own a building.
Oh, French Quarter.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Got it.
and so it's in the back of the French Quarter. And so what's interesting is it was a few iterations before we took it over. was a restaurant called G&E Courtyard Grill that was a really well thought of restaurant. And when I was a kid, it was a place where I had my first glass of wine. So it was really fun to to come full circle in that space. Um, but it's just an incredible property and beautiful and historic. And it was built by the Ursuline nuns from the Ursuline convent, which we back up to. It's some of the oldest buildings in the city.
Nice.
Yeah, it's magical.
Okay.
Let me tell you, when the lights are low, it is magic in there.
Is that where Dave and Dave are right now?
They're at Val's, which is one of our newer concepts, and that's a block away from Cure on Ferret, and it's a old service station that we looked at for years and years that was abandoned, and we just kept working on it. And Val's is a Mexican restaurant with a big emphasis on mezcal and outdoor dining, and it's been a wonderful property for us. And once again, my chef my chef and partner, our Alfredo Noguera has just been instrumental in people's affection towards it. And my other partner, Matthew Conkey, who's my original partner at Cure, who's a designer and builder, he made the kind of space that it didn't matter what we did there, it was going to be successful. It's just so beautiful and easy to use and welcoming. And we were also lucky to have another partner who was the GM of Cure for 12 years. So it was really a great kind of evolution for us, but it was also creating opportunity for two people who've worked with us for a long time. I mean, Turk, who is our GM, he worked for us for as long as anybody, and we still are fortunate that we get an opportunity to work with him. So much of what we do is about the people that we get to work with. It's a real.
That was my next
privilege.
question. Is you have to get and keep great people. Often you need to give them opportunities to grow. And what's great about what you are doing is that you're growing, and you have new concepts and new challenges and new locations and new places where they can take the next step in their career and be a part of something. Because I say that because I was going to ask you, one of the things I always like to ask people is, how do you solve for one of the biggest challenges in this industry, which is attracting and keeping really good people? Because people are the lifeblood of this business. So much of what you're talking about, whether it's creating great food or designing great spaces, or most importantly, taking great care of the guests, it's a people business, right? And you have to have people that love it, that want to work hard at it, that want to work as a teammate, that want the guests every day to have a great experience, and want the focus to be on, others and not themselves. And it's hard to often find and keep those people, particularly if you don't, have opportunities for them to grow. But it sounds like y'all are growing and giving this people internally those opportunities to grow with you.
Certainly we're not growing. We're not a super well-funded group or anything. We're not out there growing,
Yeah.
Willy-nilly, but we have people that are amazing that work with us that have earned opportunities to go and do projects with us, and it's been great. I love that we've been able to do that. But really, it's about, and not everybody has the goal to be in ownership, and that's something that we've realized a little bit more recently, is that some of our best aren't really like, oh, I want to do what you do and own a business. Like it looks kind of terrible sometimes,
Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that absolutely they know what comes with it.
And so that has definitely been some food for thought a little bit as we kind of try and figure out what's next. But I really think that and I think I was very lucky to get to work with Danny Meyer years and years ago in New York, and he really showed me that you can be team first and have your heart in the right place and still be successful in this business. And I had not seen that up until that point. and I am forever grateful that that I was able to learn that lesson from him. And he certainly does not remember teaching me that lesson, I might add. But but it was, it was critical for me. And it's like what I told Dave and Dave when they were talking to us earlier. It's what I told our team. I said, if one person gets one thing out of this, out of this hour that we spent with you guys, hour and a half, then it's worth it, right? Because you never
Yep.
know who's going to take what bit of information and what it's going to mean to them, and it's going to roll around in them like a pearl in an oyster, and turn into something really beautiful. And
Oh, yes. Yes.
and that to me is, I had that happen to me in my career, and I would feel very fortunate if that if that could happen to people that work with us. And so, we are team first. Now, we are not team to the detriment of our business. Um, we still have to make a profit. We still have to get paid for our work, right? And we have to make sure that this job is sustainable, so that we can continue to hire people, and we can continue to create jobs, and continue to try and make careers. And so
Yeah.
with that, it is the balancing act between doing what's right for our team, but also making sure that we can maintain our business.
Yep. One of the things that I see happening in your industry, Neal, is when you talk about sustainable careers, that there's the business side, and then there's the personal impact that the industry can take. And it used to be that there was, and you were on the on the not on the front and on the tail end of this, I guess, in a lot of ways, but it used to be just sort of this, particularly in New York, it's like grind it out, work hard, play hard. And part of the sort of like family environment that was created was great in some ways, but that work hard, play hard would lead to lots of negative outcomes, substance abuse and mental health issues and all that. And the industry is
100%.
really having this conversation, more and more now, where you don't have to have that same mentality to. And there's been a lot more people that are embracing taking care of their mental health issues, supporting each other, and owners who are trying to lead through example. And it's been an interesting thing to see, and it's been a tough outcome of the industry that I think the industry is starting to learn how to continue to thrive without having that same negative outcome, because otherwise it's not a sustainable life and lifestyle for a lot of people, and it can grind you up and spit you out. And what you need is to have an industry that can be a career, and a very healthy and happy and lucrative career for people that want to make it a career.
I mean, I just want to say, amen, hallelujah. I mean, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend a lot of our time at Tales of the Cocktail Foundation working on that. I mean, we need sustainable careers. This business needs it. And the challenge is that we are not built like other businesses. And so there are things that we want for this business that don't make sense because there's so many part-time workers. But on the way, it's interesting that you use the term family. We've actually seen a lot of people, I think it started during the pandemic, but it was really interesting that just said, hey, we've seen a lot of our employees, or I've heard other team members for other companies say, hey, look, we're not your family, right? We're your employee. And and at first I was like, God, it's jarring, right? And then I realized, like, what, actually that it's right. Like, we shouldn't put on the charade that we're a family. This is an employer-employee relationship, and we want to treat each other well and respectfully. But, like, I don't know about your family, but, like, sometimes families are not, healthy places. So
Yeah.
it's,
Right.
it's, I really think that we've been able to reframe so many things in this career, and some for better, and some for worse, a lot for better. And I am excited to see where hospitality is going. It is definitely, um, interesting times, and it's changing a lot. And I look forward to seeing where we go as an industry. I think there'll be plenty of things that happen, that I think we're coming out of a very turbulent time, and I think that it's probably going to be turbulent for a few more years. But I'm interested to see what this industry looks like in 5 years.
Tell me about Tales of the Cocktail. Dave tells me you saved Tales of the Cocktail. I don't know a whole lot about Tales of the Cocktail.
So Tales of the Cocktail is a nonprofit. It is the world's largest, and I would argue best, cocktail festival, and it's in New Orleans at the end of July. Which you would ask, why would anybody want to come to New Orleans at the end of July? And you are right. There. Um, but when it started, it was a place for bartenders and bar professionals to convene, and it made a lot of sense because it wasn't an expensive place to get a great hotel or to get a flight during that time. And Tales really made the, I would say the desert bloom, but really the swamp bloom. And it was meaningful because it grew up with the craft cocktail business. The owners experienced some trouble in 2017, and were forced to step down and to sell. And then I was kind of trying to help them find a buyer, and a friend of mine came to me and said, "Hey, look, I'm interested, but I would only do it if you want to do it." Um, and you get those moments in your life that are crossroads, right? I had no desire to be involved in the running of Tales or in the saving of Tales. It is a big challenge, and but I love my industry, and I love Tales and what Tales does for New Orleans, and what it does for our community here, and I said yes, and God, the rest is history. And it has been really hard and really challenging, but I sure am glad we did it.
So around 2018, then y'all had a year or two of trying to get it going, and then COVID. So wow, I bet it has been challenging, man. So congratulations on getting
Yeah, challenging.
having that
Challenging might be an understatement here. But I will say I was feeling very depleted after COVID, and I still struggle with that sometimes. And the first time that I felt full and happy again was in 2021 when we did in-person Tales for the first time. And it wasn't because of anything, but I felt plugged back into my community, and what that meant for me, I can't express in words, and it made me realize that why what we do is so important.
Do you know who Steve Palmer is?
I do.
From the Indigo
Mm-hmm.
Road?
Yeah.
Yeah. He also, he and a couple of guys started Ben's Friends,
Mm-hmm.
which, do you know
Yeah.
Ben's Friends?
Uh-huh.
So, which has been a great thing for the industry, but I just spoke to him the other day. And I mean, their Indigo Road's just, I don't know, they've got like 30 restaurants now and a couple of hotels.
I stayed in
like
one,
5 or 6 more.
Yeah, I stayed in one of his hotels in Highlands.
Yep. That was one of the, I mean, I think their Highlands was like their first one or two were there. And then they've got one going in Asheville and Georgetown, South Carolina. It's hard to even keep up.
I had to leave early, and they were kind of experiencing something that we're experiencing here today. They ripped the roof off of our room. It was crazy.
Oh my
and we
God.
were like, "Hey, look, love you guys. We got to go. We can't be here."
Happens. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, well, he's, I brought him up because there's so many people, I think, that have this mentality, and I think you have a little bit of this, and he has it, and so many people in your industry that have been at it a long time that just keep doing it. I said, Steve, man, you're just, I can't even keep up. You're opening places, you're opening hotels, restaurants, you're doing all this stuff. He goes, well, it's exhausting. And he goes, man, but I just keep running into the fire, man. And I don't think I kind of like running into the fire. And I was like, well, the way you're doing that now, Steve, is a very a healthy way to run into the fire, which is trying to grow a business and create jobs and create experiences. And I mean, I'm not saying anything. He's written a book about this, so I'm not revealing anything about him that he wouldn't be happy to reveal and has revealed very publicly. He talks about how the restaurant industry saved his life twice, right? He wrote that book, Say Grace, and he had an unhealthy way of kind of running into the fire and taking risks when he had substance abuse issues, and now he's channeled that same kind of mentality and energy into something really positive with building his business. And I think there's that, it's like when you love something, like you all do with hospitality. Yeah, it has its challenges, and yeah, it's hard, and yeah, sometimes it can deplete you. But I feel like all of you that have been at it and will keep staying with it and keep doing it, just have this thing where it's just drawn. It's driven by love. It's a hard to measure, but it's a love for whatever this is, whatever hospitality is, and however you define it. You all seem to love it and just kind of keep running towards the challenges.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, it doesn't always feel productive, um, but I don't know if I'd be good at anything else. I just feel very fortunate to like what I do and to want to get up every morning and do it. That's not to say that every morning I like it and that every morning's good, um,
Yeah.
and that every night is good here, because it's not. But overall, I really enjoy it, and it works for me and for who I am. And I, you know, I can't say this enough. The real joy for me in doing what I do is is that we get to create experiences for our guests, but more than anything, it's that we get to work with teams and that we get to work on a common goal. And that to me is really is the thing that I value the most about what I do is that we get to work together to achieve a common goal. And I think that goal is relatively noble. And I'm not saying getting people drunk is if you distill it down to that, is the most noble. But I do think that our goal is to try and take care of people and create great experiences, and that I do think is noble. And that it's a real honor for us to get to do it, and that's why we do it. That's why I do it, at least.
You create a place where people can experience some kind of escape from a challenging situation, or where they can mourn, or where they can celebrate, or where they can go and be where they don't have to, take care of their own family that night. They just need to go somewhere and feel taken care of. That's what y'all do. And you do it when you talk about teams. What I think is so great about your industry is your teams, hospitality teams, particularly in independent hospitality world, is the most diverse group of people you will find anywhere, because it is like the one industry where I don't care where you went to school, I don't care if you have a degree, I don't care where you're from, who you know, what color your skin is. Like, if you will show up here when you're supposed to be here and give us your all and be a good teammate and take great care of these people, let's go.
Yeah, let's
And
go.
if you want to, I don't care if maybe you've been in prison. Look, show up, do what you're supposed to do. This is your chance. And it's like Steve said, Steve was homeless on the streets, and the industry gave him a second chance. And that's what's so great about this industry. It does give people that are willing to change, or are willing to work hard, or are willing to just go for it and learn. And even when they may not know a whole lot about something, to just put their mind into it and learn and just be a good team member. Then that team that you create is as cool as any team you can find anywhere, because it really is the industry that just lets people have that chance to prove themselves and show themselves what they can be and show others what they can be. And that's what I think is really cool about the
I mean,
people y'all
I
employ.
couldn't agree.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree anymore. And to me, it's just so interesting to just to look at what we do, and in how we do it and who does it, and it's just, it can open doors for so much, for huge things for people, and can teach them really valuable skills that they will take for the rest of their lives, whether they stay in hospitality or not. I mean, hospitality is, it really exists in everything, right? And doesn't matter what business you're in, if you're not great at hospitality, you won't be as successful. And I was actually just lamenting, with my mom. My dad has a doctor, who I think is terrible at hospitality, and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, look, like it doesn't it doesn't mean that he gets to keep his patients, right? If you're terrible at hospitality and making people feel cared for, guess what? You ain't gonna have any patients, bro. You know?
I listen, you can have the most talented bartender in the world that could make drinks better than anybody on the entire planet. But if that dude or that gal is an ass and, couldn't like if they care about their craft more than they care about the people they're serving, then they're not like people are going to go find somewhere
Look,
else and somebody else to
we've
make them a drink.
we've
Like
had that
it's
behind our bars, right? And
yeah,
it sucks. And it does, because you're like, man, you make great drink, but like nobody wants to sit in front of you.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, look, you're right. I completely agree with this. I wrote a blog post years ago that I want all of my kids to work for an independent restaurant
Mhm.
one day. And they were like, I'll have to find it. I think they were like, my daughter's 19 now. I think she was 12 at the time. And then she's got two younger brothers. And she did work in a restaurant. She's worked in two, and my son's worked in two now. I think working for restaurants, I don't know what they'll do, but my daughter was a host at a restaurant in Charlotte last
Mhm.
summer, and she'd come home and be like, these people were jerks or whatever. They were rude. And I'm like, dude, listen. Here's what you do. Let that go, and every single person that comes in, greet them with a smile. Tell them you're glad they're there, and when they're leaving, look them in the eyes and be like, "Hey, y'all, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate you." Even if they were like total jerk, like just practice that, build that skill set, practice building that muscle, because if you treat people like that and you learn to do that, and that's just part of what you do, first of all, you're going to make a big difference in a lot of these people's lives where maybe they were just in a bad mood or something bad happened and you smiled and said thank you, and it's going to like change their day, and maybe they'll pay that forward and you won't even know about it, but it doesn't matter. Just that you did it is what matters. And if you can take if you can work in a restaurant and keep your composure and keep your cool when it's stressful and there's a lot going on, and you can still be nice and smile to people, you will be able to do almost anything.
Mhm.
It's such a transferable skill set. So I was really hammering her with that, and
I think
we'll
that's just
see.
good.
I
I
mean,
think
like,
that's just good parenting. I mean, I can think of so many people who are successful in industries outside of hospitality, who worked in hospitality, and they
yeah,
learn the skills that make them successful. And more than that, what they learned is they learned empathy, right? To be
yes,
great at service, you have to be empathetic. You have to learn how to be empathetic, even if you're not, right? Because you
yeah,
have to be
that's
able to
right.
put yourself in someone else's shoes in order to serve them properly. And
Yep.
I don't, I never think that empathy well, let me rephrase that. I think empathy is something that everybody should know, learn, love. It will never make you worse, only better.
That's right.
And
Amen.
then the other part that I think is really interesting about why restaurants and bars are so important now, beyond hospitality and empathy, um, is that as human to human contact becomes so much less than it has been in previous generations, restaurants and bars are one of the few places where you actually do get human to human contact, as messy and
Yep.
crazy it is as it is. And so it really is going to be something, as we look at a world where it's harder and harder to have human contact, restaurants hopefully will never lose that, and they will always be a place for us to connect, whether it's in a it's between a server and a guest, whether it's between two teammates, whether it's between two guests. Like that's the thing. It's the magic. I am using the magic, and that's the magic of one of the things that we do is we put people in the same room and we let humans be human.
Amen, man. A freaking man. I could not agree more. Absolutely, I value. Listen, man. I don't. I mean, I have a flip phone. Like I don't even.
I'm
I can't even
jealous.
do
I
that.
wish I had a flip
I
phone.
had an. I had an iPhone. I took it in 2020, and I traded it in. And the guy at the Verizon store was like, "Yeah, dude, I'll see you in
Is
about
that
a
is
week."
that is that
And
like a cricket with the big buttons, or is that
it's a Kyocera, man. It's like the
nice?
old Nextel. It's got the Nextel digital pager technology, but I don't have anybody to page. But super durable, man. It's like military grade. But yeah, I just like I can't- just the this thing all the time on a screen, looking at the screen, scrolling. It's like, man, that's not where the magic happens. And you were right. Restaurants are the place where you go where you're just like, man, like I just don't like, it used to be that people would talk on their phones, and then people would be sitting there texting and eat. And I think more and more people now are like, man, I don't like I can tell you how many people I show this to, and they're like, what you just said. I wish I could. People get like these things, these phones, these screens. They're awesome in a lot of ways, and they're so cool in so many ways, and they give us access to so much and enabled us to communicate so easily. But we also know that like they kind of get overwhelming after a while, and we need a place and a space and a time to like not be on them. So restaurants kind of become this place where you're like, okay, we're gonna go and just have a little personal presence and engagement now. And there's not
Mhm.
many places left where you do that. So I mean,
Well,
we're singing the
well, I will
same,
now. I mean, now you're my new hero because now I'm just gonna be like, now I want to be like Will and have a flip phone.
it has its, it has its drawbacks every now and then, but the good
That's
news
that's
is
pretty,
like,
it's pretty special for a software guy.
well, it's kind of like the story of Schedulefly. Like our software is really basic and it works, and like that's kind of what this does. It does one thing, but it does it really well, and it's actually forced me. The cool thing is I can't text as easily now. I can, but it's like do C do
Oh my
T
God.
like so. Yeah, dude. So what I do is I call people. Like I just call like I'm driving home. I'll call like I just call people a lot, and I have phone. People are like, "Oh, you called." Like it's like I have so many phone conversations now, which I really like. It's kind of like old school, right? But you actually talk to people, and instead of this back and
Well,
forth,
and
text
and
stream.
then they're
So
probably like, why didn't this guy just text me this? And you're like, look, buddy,
oh, all the
I got
time.
a flip phone. Okay, I'm not texting you. It's gonna take me 20 minutes.
Yep. I still leave voicemails. People are like, dude, why'd you leave me a voicemail? I saw that you called. I'm like, I don't, that's just like, that's just, like, did you not listen? No, I don't listen to voicemails, man. But anyway, man, listen, dude, I so thoroughly enjoy
Yeah,
talking
I
to you.
enjoyed talking
And
to you.
I
Thank you.
am, I wish this were in person, but I was actually, my wife and I were talking about this. I think, man, like this spring, we're going to get down there and just hang. She's never been in New Orleans. I've only
You
been
got to come.
years ago for business a few times. So we're going to just come hang out for a few days and just
Yeah.
just
Well, you
chill.
guys,
And
you guys, let me know when you guys come down. We'll make sure you guys are really well taken care of.
awesome, man. All right. Well, so tip or hats off to Dave Nitzel and Dave Domzalski. You got to get their book,
It's a great book.
Hospitality DNA. Neal's featured in it. They featured, the best restaurant and bar owners around the world. It's a phenomenal book. We've had them on. Check out their episode. And just I'm glad that glad they connected us, man. It's been really a pleasure speaking with you, Neal.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thanks for such a fun conversation, and thanks for the flip phone inspiration too.
All right, man. I'll let you hold it when I come down there, and you can play around with it a little bit.
It'll be a journey back in time. I look forward to it.
All right, man.
All right.
Thanks, Neal. Have a good one, man.
Thanks.
All right, see
See
ya.
ya.